Starting off with some of the biggest etiquette faux pas you might be making without even knowing it. We have an Emily Post trained expert in the house, Courtney Fadler, here with the answers. Emily Post trained sounds very intimidating. Where did you go for that training?
That's really sweet. No, and it's not at all. I mean, I just have always been very interested in manners and etiquette. And so I went to, there is an Emily Post Institute, believe it or not, and it's in Vermont, in Burlington, Vermont, and it's run by the Post family. So it's all still within the family. It's her great-great-grandchildren who run it now.
How many people are in your class when you go to one of those schools?
You know what? They make sure that the class sizes are small and intimate so that you really get the most out of it. So about 6 to 9 people in every class.
Okay, so we're going to trust her. We have some situations that we want to ask you about that are pretty popular situations. I'm going to start with a true or false.
Okay.
Okay, true or false? You're on your flight back home and your shoes are killing you. Is it okay to take off your shoes during the plane ride?
I love this question. I think most of us have experienced this on a flight before, right? You've been on a flight and like somebody has got the shoes off. Maybe they have socks on, maybe they're bare feet.
Right.
But the etiquette answer to this is that if you're on any sort of just a domestic flight, the best thing to do really is to be considerate of others and keep your shoes on. If you know you're going to be on a long flight, maybe pack a different pair of shoes that you can put on before the flight that are more comfortable.
Okay.
I was recently on an overnight flight and I can say it felt like the entire plane had their shoes off, and that's understandable. And if you're in that situation, the best thing to do is pack a clean pair of socks.
Yeah, barefoot, even I'm going to say no on
That's
bare
a no-no.
feet.
Never bare feet. If anything, have a pair of clean socks.
Because the foot's got to go somewhere, and it's going to be stretched out in someone else's space.
Exactly.
Okay. You're having a summer dinner party. Everyone's arrived except one guy who's 30 minutes late. Food is ready. What do you do?
Right. Okay. So I'm going to pose this question to you too. Do you think that you call his cell phone and see if he's going to arrive and just kind of wait on him? Or give him 15 more minutes, or just go ahead and start without him?
Okay, 30 minutes is pretty late. And if it's a sit-down dinner, I say call and wait. But if it's a barbecue where everybody's just serving themselves, we're going to start without you, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so what's the right answer?
I like that. I was posing this to some people last night, and everybody kind of said, well, I just call his cell phone. And so I understand that rationale, but the truth of the matter is you're going to want your cell phone put away in another room because you're there focused on your guests, right?
Okay.
And the rule of thumb is for the designated time that you ask people to arrive, you give them 15 minutes grace time, but after 15 minutes, it's completely okay to go ahead and start without them.
Even if there's a set plate,
even if
there's no one sitting at that chair.
Exactly, because the goal is to be considerate of the rest of your guests who did arrive on time.
Right.
Yeah.
Here's another question. This has happened to everyone at one point or another. You're having brunch with friends, the check comes, everyone else has been having alcoholic drinks like margaritas, gin and tonics, whatever.
Right.
You've just had water. So your bill's going to be considerably lower.
Right.
However, they say, "Oh, let's all just split it evenly." Is it okay to say, "No, let's each pay our own portion," or do you just suck it up at that point and just split it?
Yeah, this is a tough one. I think a lot of people have encountered this too, right? Where you've been out and you've been like, oh gosh, that way exceeds my budget.
Right.
So the biggest consideration there is that you first and foremost need to consider your budget. That kind of trumps everything.
Right.
You as the guest, it is completely okay to ask for separate checks. But the best thing to do, if going in you knew that you're maybe not going to partake in all the mimosas everybody else is, you let the waiter know first thing when you sit down.
Ahead of time.
Yeah. Asking for it after the meal is already over is a little bit more of a challenge for the waiter at that point. So the best thing to do is to ask before you sit down and make it clear to everybody else you're going to go ahead and split off and have your own separate check, but it's completely fine if they want to split.
And to do it ahead of time, it keeps it from being awkward.
Exactly.
Where you say, no, you guys drank a lot. I don't want to pay for your drinks. Okay, last question. Your cell phone rings during a meeting. Your ringtone is your favorite song that might not be appropriate for the workplace. Your boss gives you the side eye. Do you have to explain yourself? Do you just silence it and move on?
Right. I think this is a really funny question because a lot of people feel like it's completely fine to have your phones, number one, on and on the table during a meeting. And the first thing of consideration right there would be your phone really needs to be, even at work, really needs to be put away in a more discreet place and needs to be silenced. So that's number one. And then number two is, people are like, well, it's my personal choice, that ringtone. But when you're at work, you are still a representation of that company or corporation. Right. So it's important that everything that you do, you could have clients in that meeting, you could have your CEO in that meeting, that it be silenced, and if so, it needs to be on maybe a ringtone that might be a little less divisive too.
And unless someone's in the hospital and you're waiting for news, phone goes away.
You don't need it, right?
Courtney, thank you.
You're welcome.